Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're doing How I Would Have Booked. Now normally when I do these we look at something historic that's happened already and I try to rebook it to make it better. This time we're going to look at something that hasn't happened yet but is largely rumored to. The topic of this, how I would have booked Sasha Banks debuting in AEW. Now, we're calling her Sasha Banks because that's her WWE name and that's what most people know her by. Chances are she's probably going to go by Mercedes whenever she's actually outside of the WWE. So, I am going to probably use those interchangeable, and we'll talk about that as we go along with some other things on here. With that being said, let's jump right in. We start this build with Tony Khan tweeting out that on Dynamite he's going to have a special announcement. Dynamite starts off, goes to right at the halfway part, the 9 o'clock hour. Tony Schiavone standing on the stage, who brings out Tony Khan. Tony Khan says, "I've heard your criticism. I've heard what the fans have said. I understand that you guys think that the women's division needs some help. So to help me out, I brought someone here to help me revamp and re-energize the women's division in AEW," which he brings out. Music hits. Soraya, formerly known as Paige. Soraya comes out, basically takes over the interview, says from now on, I'm going to help Tony with the women's division. I'm going to be in charge of getting the division back on track and making it what we know it can be, being the best women's division in the world. Flash forward a couple weeks later, we're 4 weeks out from from All Out, and Soraya announces next week we're going to start a 3-week tournament, or a 4-week tournament, ending up on All Out for the Women's Tag Team Championship, and announces the brackets. In the first round, we're going to have Kiera Hogan and Red Velvet versus Athena and Kris Statlander. Then Jamie Hayter and Rebel versus a surprise team. Then the next week, we're going to have Yuka Sakazaki, that's hard to say, and Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose and I don't know why I'm saying these names wrong. Marina Shafir. Also Penelope Ford and the Bunny versus another surprise team. So we go to the next week, which is the first week. We have Kiera Hogan and Red Velvet. They're in a match against Athena and Kris Statlander. Athena and Statlander pick up the win. Show gets Dynamite's main event at that week by Jamie Hayter and Rebel against the surprise team, which is the Inspiration. Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay, formerly the Iconics. So we get a debut here, a little bit of a swerve for what the story we're going with, but you'll see in a moment here, because this is all part of a bigger thing to build the division itself. Inspiration pick up the win over Hayter and Rebel, setting up for the second round. Athena and Statlander going up against the Inspiration. The next week, the next two matches of the first round, we get Yuka Sakazaki, I keep saying her name wrong, I do not know why, and Hikaru Shida going up against Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir. Nyla and Marina pick up the win here. And then we go to the main event again, where we have Penelope Ford and the Bunny versus another surprise team. And the surprise team here, Mercedes and Trinity, a.k.a. Sasha Banks and Naomi. When we last saw Sasha and Naomi, they were the World Tag Team Champions in WWE. So fittingly, introducing a new tag title would have these two involved. Rose and Marina picked up the win in the first match. Mercedes and Trinity pick up the win in the second, setting up their match for the next week. Next week we go to the semifinals. We have Athena and Kris Statlander going up against the Expiration. Athena and Statlander pick up the win. And in the main event of that week, and if you notice, there's one women's match in the main event of Dynamite all 3 of these weeks, and this puts at least 2 women's matches on the cards. Again, this is part of a bigger overarching storyline of building the women's division by introducing this new championship. The main event of that week is going to be Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir versus Mercedes and Trinity. Mercedes and Trinity pick up the win. The finals are set for All Out. Athena and Kris Statlander versus Mercedes and Trinity. We go on to the show. It's a semi-main event. The main event will be, obviously, the World Championship at that point. Athena and Kris Statlander versus Mercedes and Trinity for the newly formed AEW Women's Tag Team Championship. And Athena and Statlander pick up the win. A little bit of a curveball. My reason for this, first, you have Athena and Statlander, who have both been here a little bit. Statlander since the beginning, Athena recently came, who've already built a chemistry before even announcing this new team. But you don't automatically put over the team that just came from the WWE as being better than talent you already had. Athena and Statlander had to build to this point to get to this championship. The story going forward, now you can use Trinity and you can use Mercedes either in the tag division or either to go for the TNT Championship or the Women's World Championship. But you introduce them, you make them look strong. They shake Athena and Statlander hands after they win. They hug it out. While you're debuting a great talent like Mercedes, aka Sasha Banks, you're also bringing along another great talent in Trinity, who's Naomi, and also Soraya, formerly Paige. So you bring in 3 new talents infused into the women's division, where most people that watch wrestling will say is the weakest part of AEW, and it's not for the talent there, but now you're bringing in some real star power. This is kind of like akin to when Danielson, Adam Cole, and CM Punk all came in around the same time. Now you're getting Mercedes, Trinity, and Soraya. And Soraya is going to be more of a GM type role, quasi-GM, head of the women's division type role. We don't know if she could wrestle or not. There have been reports that she could. Maybe she branches off if she can. I'd love to see her at some point branch off and have matches with a lot of people on this roster. All in all, I said this was a video of how I would book Sasha Banks debuting in AEW, but it's a combination. It's a combination of Sasha debuting. It's a combination of making the AEW women's division a little bit better and a little bit more high profile, and also bringing along Trinity, who will help with all of that, because Trinity is a highly underrated wrestler. Naomi is well underrated. Her glow, so to say, has been outshined by the 4 Horsewomen, by Ronda Rousey, by Asuka, but she's always solid. She's a person that the fans really get behind. She's a wrestler that could go with anybody, and I think she's an asset to any company. Even if you don't bring in Sasha, aka Mercedes, definitely you want to look at bringing in Naomi, because Naomi, aka Trinity, is a fantastic talent in her own right. And then you also open some possibilities. Maybe her husband will want to come there. Maybe his brother will want to come with him. You never know. My opinion, this is how I would book Sasha Banks debuting at AEW. If you made it this far, click that like button, smash the share button, subscribe if you haven't. And if you made it all the way to the end, give me a boss time in the comments for Sasha. I know we rolled it all into one thing, but ultimately it was fun to do. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another How I Would Have Booked.